First of all, I want to say thank you for Professor Louis Liang and T.W. Liang for inviting me to join this conference. My great pleasure to come. And secondly, it's a very tiny and important topics to discuss about the big data analytics and also how to use the newer technologies to advance the journalism education. This is exactly the idea I want to discuss further. I understand when I pop up this PowerPoint, most of you want to look at that comics. I will explain why I pop up this in a minute. But before I start today's content, because I have the luxury, I have 10 more minutes to talk. So I just want to speak a little bit more about the journalism education issues. Because in this semester, I'm running a course called Social Media Analytics for Journalists. So the whole idea is to advance the data analytics skills of the journalism student and to make them more employable in the coming media industry, especially when more and more people now they start to looking for journalists with some coding experience and also data analytics experience. So this is my third year to run the course, and then in the past few years, I pretty proud I could get a couple of students who graduate with the skills of coding, and basically they are the journalism major, but they end up to get a job in the data scientist. So that is something I'm really, really proud of. And also, I know a lot of students here from journalism major, so I also really encourage you to try to explore this area as one of your career development, especially in the coming few years. I can imagine there's a lot of jobs that require people with data science training and also data analytics skills, and also your expertise. That means your storytelling skills. That is very important. You have good training in presentation, no matter it's writing, shooting, or taking photograph, and also with the help of this kind of coding skills, that would really help you to be competitive in the market. So this is one thing I really want to emphasize. And also I will show you real examples in a minute. I will show you the project called WeChat Group, and I will show you the website. And the website is developed by a former journalist who took a class of 3 months of coding skills in Canada. And then with the background training, and then work in our department, and we give additional training too. And then she successfully developed a website that make use of the data and data analytics skills, as well as her storytelling skills. So I will show you in a minute. It's doable. And you also can be in this, if you have good training, you can do it at the same things. So a little bit about the course I'm running is what you call the social media analytics course. I teach basic data mining. I teach network analysis. I teach sentiment analysis, how to create a digital map, how to create an app, how to create a dashboard, this kind of thing. That pretty practical and also can be used in the market. So that is something that you can see in the result I will show you in a minute. Okay, let's start talk about the project I'm doing called WeChat Group, a big data approach to understanding China social media. So before I start, a little disclaimer is today is a buzzword is big data. A lot of people talk about big data, but I put the big data here as a bracket and bracket. That means something. That means I'm a bit skeptical to just take big data just from the face meaning, because big data is not necessarily big. And even the big data in big in size or large in scale doesn't necessarily mean they're good. So I think if a lot of people, when they see the buzzword big data, saying, hey, this is a good thing. And so, a lot of people, they say, hey, this is a large volume, variety, vulnerability. There's a lot of noise about to discuss about issue, but we need to really, as a critical, you have a critical mindset. You are a well-trained journalist. You have to ask, to inquire what exactly the meaning of this what we call big data analytics. What does it mean? So that's why I make use of this whole idea. I try to make use of these skills to investigate a research question that is related to mainland China, the social media. Since 2010, I started a project called Weibo Scoop. It's also another major social media platform in China. And one thing that I was very interested into is the way how the government control information on social media. And I think, I don't know how many of you have a mainland China, or if you are also a Weibo or WeChat user, but as a normal general citizen, receive censorship. Censorship basically is a general practice in China. A lot of people post information, share information, get censored. So I'm really interested to understand the pattern of how China authority or the service provider censor information. So I started a project in 2010 called Weibo Scoop. And we, using computational method, we collect large-scale social media data from Weibo and systematically analyze the pattern behind how the government censor information. So this small comics, you guys say comics, small video clips, was censored in 2017 when a government, at some point, I can't remember the exact timing, perhaps maybe after some People Congress or some major conference in China, this is a large-scale censorship campaign in China. They remove large amount of information on social media. That upset a lot of people, included a lot of normal citizens. So that is something that a lot of Chinese social media users like to do it. They grab a small video clip from TVB. I think some people maybe this kind of TV show, TV drama, and put in some interesting subtitle into it and create what he call meme, the online meme, and circulate it online. And as you can imagine, you can see all this kind of subtitle basically teasing the censorship system. So asking, if you know how it works, they talk about something, it's using the language used by the regulator, how to censor information, even some of the dirty language. I don't really want to show it to you. But anyway, all the people are left more than 18 should be okay. And, but it makes fun of the whole system and make fun of the censor. So, of course, it wouldn't be very surprising this post was censored shortly after they published. So this is whole idea about the practice of censorship in China. As I just mentioned, we started a project called Weibo Scoop in 2010 as Weibo was still one of the major social media platforms in China. But in the past few years, a lot of people changed the practice of using social media and shift and use more WeChat as the main social media platform. So that's why I started a project last year called WeChat Scoop. It's to using this big data approach to understand China social media system. So that is the idea how I run this project. So I will provide a little bit background about the whole project. So internet censorship in China. So this is one of the screen a lot of people experience in China when you want to access an articles that you want to read, but that article was already censored. So you see the screen, a big red question mark, another question mark, quotation mark, and see here, this post is not accessible due to the content violation. So it's a lot of people experience these things happen. And it's, as a researcher, I want to understand the pattern behind it, but this is very difficult because there's something always censored. How can you investigate it? So that's why we need to find a way to hack the system. Hack the mean is really to find out a way, another way to collect this kinds of censored information before it gets censored. Of course, I'm not hacking the system, but I need to find a way to problem solving is we find out the issue. So how can I do this? So a little bit background about the internet censorship system. This is a government policy. The whole idea, they want to provide a clean cyberspace in China. They want to provide a system to maintain a clean using the China standard. They provide the regulation. This is the government policy. A lot of scholars, particularly in political science, they argue that, but the most important task of doing all this censorship is try to maintain the regime stability, because they don't like the people to use social media to mobilize people to join the protest. They don't like the people to use media to call for action. They don't like this kind of collective action happen. So that is the main thing, is to try to censorship to maintain stability. So one of the recent study to look at, there's a lot of criticism of government, that obviously, but at the same time, we find a lot of people try to make use of some of the, what we call the monotone, or some of the bunch special keywords, and change a little bit to signal and to symbolize some of the meaning about the censored subject. For example, he used some of the name to represent the leader of the government or other ranks. So this is a critical criticism of government. Some people argue that, hey, this is something they target to those posts with the collective action potential. That also obvious, because they don't like to see the protest. Even though sometimes you can see protests, a lot of journalists found out in some place in China there's protests, collective action basically mostly come from the social media. Especially people also take the video, post it online, and share internationally, and share on different video. So, and some more scholars are working on it, the video fiction and forcing different strategy to look at the internet censorship. So, recently, WeChat is one of the major social media platforms in China, and also I would arguably say that now is the only one of the most important social media platform in China. It's also not just a social media; it's all embedding system that including payment system, including online shopping, and also including social networking, and even it's closely related to the what we call the social credit system in China. So as of the September 2017, close to 1 billion active users in China. But this is basically a private messaging system. The main function of private messaging system, but one of the key parts that make it open, that is accessible just like a media outlet, is what we call the public account, 公号. It is a Weixin public account. It's very similar to the Facebook fan page. So people can create a page, and just like a media outlet, and people can subscribe to that outlet and receive regular articles from the account. So it's still very active, and now already reached 3.5 million account with quite close to 800 million users actively following it. There's a lot of audience are reading Weixin public account right now, and become a key social media platform in China. So these are some of the screenshots. Is that you could click in your Weibo. How many Weibo WeChat user in this room? Okay, not a lot. If I give this talk in China, I can basically 100%, but I think now it's less than 5% people using. It's still, this is something means we're still in Hong Kong. But I can imagine maybe next year I come back, I would ask again, I'll maybe increase substantially, because now Tencent is actively expanding the market in Hong Kong. A lot of players will have using the WeChat Pay as the main payment gateway that more and more using in the future in Hong Kong. But different kind of social affordance that enable people to use social media as a way to extend their ability. Unlike Weibo, it's a very long form articles and commentary. Weibo is pretty short, it's just like Twitter. It's 140 words, and Weixin public account is a long form journalism that you can publish a commentary, long piece, over 1,000 word paper, and share among the user. So there's a complete different mode of publication. And the dissemination is more criticism, very few call for action. There are a lot of commentary and discussion, and also multimedia embed. So this is the characteristic of WeChat public account. But as a researcher, if you want to investigate the content of the WeChat, we find a lot of difficulty, because that doesn't like Twitter, Facebook, or some other platform. They don't offer what we call the API, or they don't really offer the web link, a permanent web link for people to access. That makes it very difficult for people to access the information. There's no easy way directly crawl and get the information, or not from the search engine. That's why we developed a new way. We try to crawl the data, we get the data directly from the handphone, from the app. So that's what we call the app crawling. Okay, so perhaps the best way to do it is show you some of the picture in my lab. Here's one snapshot of my lab. I buy a lot of cell phone. I got a grant and buy a lot of cell phone, and buy a lot of phone card, and create a lot of WeChat account, fake account. And then more and more account, phone, and we all connected in my lab, and buy a big computer server. And using a technology called virtual machine, I create 40 different virtual machines, and each one embedded a WeChat account, and create a lot of robot and fake account to follow the WeChat content. For example, one account can follow 100 public account. That means we have 40. We can follow 4,000 account using our system. And we are currently basically following around 4,000 accounts right now. Okay, so, but we can't ask my research assistant every day to try to click and get all the things, right? I don't have that resources, and no one want to do this kind of job. So that's why I need to automate the whole system. That's why we need people to do programming and do the coding. So how does this work? Okay, so now we create a system. So here is the, okay. Okay, so this part is what we call to create a lot of virtual machine. That means a computer. And we basically keep collecting all the WeChat public account. When we see any new article pop up, that means you see a red dot there. That we create a robot to click and then cut and paste the whole piece of information and save it in the buffer. And then we put it into a database. And that database, and also we have another program, will automatically to check if that article still exists after 4 hours and whether or not still exists after 36 hours. That we use this mechanism to keep track on whether or not the article is still available or already got censored. And also it's interesting, we also provide a public access called API. It's open access. We are not a commercial entity, so we make the data open and share with the people who want to investigate the system. Okay, so still boring, right? It's a block diagram. Why don't we just look at how it works? Okay, I'm supposed to have a video. Can you play this video? Okay, so this is exactly the desktop in my computer. And then I click run, and then I keep my hand off. Okay, everything is automatic. So now is the WeChat that interface. So when the computer detects there's a red dot there, then it's automatically the robot will click into that red dot. I will make it delay. I make some delay there because it sounds like a real person. It's not a robot. So that's why you need to think a while, hey, whether or not I really like that articles, and wait for a while you click, yeah, it's moved. And then, okay, now you think for a while, and then you click look for the metadata, because also I collect all the metadata about the name and also the ID, and then we will come back to that news again, and then we'll click and look for the archive. Look for the archive. That means I can go through the whole list of information and then pop up, and then hey, I found the first article that is the article I want to grab and save their data, and then we click. And then we pop up all the HTML code and write down and save it, the original text that we already saved it. And then at the same time, thank you. At the same time, I also get the articles and also obtain the URL of that articles and copy it and also save it in our database. So basically we use that mechanism to collect all the essential information related to that article and also copy and paste the whole piece, including the pictures, and then save it. It's all a robot. It's not a real person to click. I don't need RA for this job. And we save everything and then back to the first place and wait for another red dot happen, and then repeat the whole process. So that's basically the whole system running, but it's all 40 virtual machines running all together. So we are making use of this way to collect data. So we collect almost roughly 4,000 articles per day in the past few months, with a gradual increase because we start to in around March, and then increase the sample to around, here is 2,000, but now we have almost 4,000 accounts we are following. And on average, every day we get almost 4,000 articles per day. So, and within which around 1% we detect were censored. So that means basically we get almost 10,000 articles within the past half year to explore the pattern of censorship. So it's pretty large, in my opinion, already pretty good samples for us to try to find out some of the pattern behind it and understand the issue related to censorship. But not just this, is also we can understand the sources of censorship, because we also have some metadata related to the types of this account. For example, we have some come from the enterprise, some of the media, some of the person, some institutional. So we can look at individual types of account the rate of censorship for each type. Then one thing is pretty interesting. If you look at the figures, we have found out government has the highest degree of censorship. It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. Why the government get higher censorship? It doesn't make sense. We ask the same question when we see the result. And then we start to think, hey, we need to talk to people, ask people about what happened. So then we start to find some people in mainland China, ask a question, and then we find out the answer is, because a lot of local government, they outsource their Weibo, WeChat public account to the company to run it. And these companies basically have no idea what is the red line. They never know it. So they keep publishing the article, but sometimes they find out the government don't like it, and then they pull out. So this kind of relationship, that trigger a lot of this kind of internal censorship. The government censor their own outsourced WeChat public account information, and that's why we detect a pretty high censorship at that point. So this is something interesting. And this is also interesting. This is really data-driven. We never thought about it. But if we look at the data, we can find out this kind of information. That can be an interesting story. I guess some of the journalists, if you can find out this, hey, this is an exchange story, why don't you just find out some of this kind of company in China, did an interview and talk to them and get the information, get an excellent story. So I think these are all the things, not just research. It can be very interesting story for journalists. We also look for different ways of censorship. There's a couple different ways of censorship. One is because of the violation of regulation. That's obvious. Another type is their self-censorship. They was request to take down their own content. Some are copyright issues, some are privacy issues, but we got a error message from WeChat that we can analyze different types of information we get. Okay, so that's also we can look at different issues and also look at different time domain. So in the past 6 months, we can see in March there was a two meeting in March at the time when Xi Jinping announced to extend their forever presidentship forever. That also took a lot of censorship at that time. The Peking Me Too campaign in in April, and the vaccine scandal in June. It's also see a lot of, thank you, it's a lot of issue related to censorship. So we have 5 minutes left, so maybe I can a bit of rush. I don't need this one. But one thing I really want to show it to you is the website. Okay, can you click? So this is our website. This is the website that I just mentioned to you was developed by a former Apple Daily journalist with a few months training in data science. And then I give an internal extensive training in a couple of weeks. And because I get that person to help because they know how to tell story. And I need people to have the skills and the storytelling skill to create visualization. That's why there's a chemical reaction of both type of people and create a website. And this is the web page that we created. And the thing is, we create it as a map interface. That means if you want to look for some of the information related to some city or some province in China. So if you want to see here, for example, you want to look at Shanghai. Here's Shanghai. So you can click, so you can pop up all the posts related to Shanghai. These are all the posts related to Shanghai got censored. So for example, here is the, for example, this one. So you want to look at the page, and then you click, and then you can get this censor post. You can't find it. This is about DNG scandal that related to that advertisement that posted by the company. and create a lot of schedule using a chopstick to eat a pizza, that one. So we got censored, and you can't find the sport anymore in WeChat. But now we cover it, and you can search it through this interface. So you have the search engine here. You can explore different locations in Chongqing, or even you can zoom in. You can find out different locations, Guangdong, Hong Kong, or even you can find it somewhere outside in Europe. If you find it here, it's France, it's United Nations. You can find out it by different country. You can find out all the related posts by using a map interface. Or if you prefer a word cloud, this is another tab. We will look at word cloud. It's also an animation. You can set the time frame that you want to look at which time frame you want to create the word cloud. For example, you want to start from mid-October to mid-November. You can set up all this and then play. This is a video. You can move. It's dynamic because keyword is dynamic process. They're using different keywords to represent the way how they create the things. And we also have the trending people. So here is some of the key person mentioned in the census post in the past few months. And also we provide another channel, for example, Donald Trump. So you can click Donald Trump. All Donald Trump related census poll you can find it here. So you can also provide a list of the people related to the trending people. We also had what we call the time river. There's a time trend analysis. So you can type in some keywords here. You can show the time frequency and the time trend of the flow of the information. And last is an advanced search engine. You can keywords and can find out which time, which censorship reason and keywords, and can search for all this. And this website we start to develop this around early October, and we launch in early this month. So within a 3 months' time, we have people who have very limited coding experience, but have storytelling ability and creative website. So I think this is something that has implication for the future journalism and communication education. There is some potential for people who have storytelling skills with a sufficient training that can become really powerful, make use of this kind of data to tell the story. Okay, so I think I more or less to finish my presentation. Thank you very much.